All right, so we are joined all the way from San Diego, California, by my friend Tee Frisby with Delta Airlines. Worn so many hats already in the aviation industry. We've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Germantown High School, and Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. And we are in the transportation, distribution, and logistics career cluster. And aviation, to me, is one of the most interesting careers to get into, and one of the fastest growing careers for the diversification with females and African Americans. So, and I know you're at the front line of that, and you've already done so many things with Delta, with so many more cool things to come. So I'll let you just tell us a little bit about your journey to your current position, to where now you're about to be in the cockpit.
Yes, indeed, from your mouth to God's ears. So my name is Tee Frisby. I actually was working at a Joe's Crab Shack. I had worn a lot of hats doing that. I'd been a server, I'd been a shift manager, I'd been a seafood specialist, I'd been the store's brand ambassador. And that was one of the things that kind of moved me into it was a real plus. So let me say this really quickly. No matter what you do, you have to do it as if I'm spiritual. So I was like, I'm doing this as if I'm working for God. I'm not working for them, because I was doing things like popping bubble gum from up underneath the table. They would have you doing a lot of things that I just felt like, have I gotten to this point in my life that this is what I'm doing? So,
Been
but it
there.
was great because that brand ambassador position, when I started applying for the airlines, and the reason I did that, I had a girlfriend who called me one day and was like, hey, you want to go to Amsterdam with me? And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I want to be that friend that calls somebody up and is like, hey, let's go to Amsterdam, let's go to Paris. Girl, I was like, yes, girl, yes. But when I looked around, like I had let my passport expire, I wasn't prepared. So preparation, that's another thing. I wasn't prepared. But I started asking her about what she did, and we've been friends for a really long time. I knew she worked in the aviation industry. I didn't know exactly what it was that she did. Coming to find out, she had done several different things as well. She was then a flight attendant, but she had started out working as a ticket agent. So she says, well, hey, you can apply. You should do this. You should do that. I'm like, oh, girl, they're not going to want me. I'm too old to do that. I'm too fat to do that. She's like, no, you're not. I promise you. So she encouraged me. And with her encouragement, I started looking around. I was I was finding out names of all different kinds of airlines I'd never heard of. There's so many different, I'd never heard of Spirit at that time. I'd never heard of Sun Country. I'd never heard of WestJet. So she says, just apply. And then finally she was like, look, hone in on Delta. Delta's a great company. I've been with them for 5 years. You'll love it here. So I said, okay. So then I started applying for anything with Delta, anything. I was finding cities that I didn't even know of. So I up near Fargo. If you guys have ever seen the movie Fargo, this is like up in North Dakota with this, like, I didn't really want to live there, but I was applying for everything. And I ended up getting an interview in El Paso, Texas. And one of the things I was mentioning, the job that I had at Joe's Crab Shack, one of the things that the station manager there was really intrigued by is I had a position as the store's brand ambassador. So they had a position there that was not paid. It was duties that you could do. That was what's called the fit rep. So that's the frontline involvement team. So as the fit rep, I did get hired on with Delta. And as the fit rep, I was able to be sort of like the liaison between the El Paso station, the El Paso city station, and the corporate office. So it
Wow.
was really cool. I got an American Express card. I got to go to all these meetings in Atlanta, in Salt Lake City. Like they were always sending me off somewhere from a regular schedule to do different things. So that was pretty amazing. And because El Paso is such a nice little station, I got a really great start there. With the Sandy Madranos and Helene. If any of you guys get to see this, I had a really great Delta family right there in El Paso. But that really wasn't what I wanted to do, getting my foot in the door. I wanted to be on the aircraft. I wanted to work as a flight attendant. I wanted to move around. So I applied for the flight attendant position when it opened. You had to wait 6 months. The timing was perfect. I'd been there exactly 6 months when the application opened. And I had someone that really took me under their wing. So that's another thing that I would point out. It seems like Greg, I'm going to just say Greg, because now I've forgotten again how to pronounce your last name.
Pygott.
Mr. Pygott.
Yep.
It seems like he might be a perfect person just for doing a series like this. One of the other things that I would say that's really important is to find yourself a mentor. I actually have a mentor that I have had since high school. My 11th grade American Lit teacher is a mentor of mine. And he actually sent me a happy Valentine's Day message and a hello to my family just yesterday. That was a lot of years ago. I don't want to say how many. It was a lot of years ago when I was in the 11th grade. He was my 11th grade American Lit teacher. So finding yourself a mentor. I'm thinking like all these different things I want to make sure I go back to. But at any rate, so I had people there in that station that kind of took me under their wing, showed me the industry, showed me their love for the company. And I think that was a really great start because El Paso is really tiny. I think we had maybe a total of 13, 14 employees, and that's from the most junior ready reserve. And I was a ready reserve at the time. So I was working what was like a part-time position. They were only supposed to give me like maybe 15 or 20 hours a week. And I picked up and moved. At the time I was living in Birmingham, Alabama. I've lived in lots of different places, and I went from Birmingham to El Paso, Texas to work a minimal job for minimal hours. And it ended up being something so much bigger. So you never know what it is you're going to get if you start just planting the seed.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think is attractive about the airline industry is that if you want to move somewhere else, especially we're in a small rural area in Mississippi, and kids say they want to get out of here, the aviation is a great way to do that. Now, even if you're not at you want to be on the aircraft, flight attendants don't just pass out drinks and candy and peanuts. There's a lot that goes into it because there's safety, there's customer service, and you have to be somewhat knowledgeable of airplanes, being a flight attendant. And like you said, you get to travel the world. So before we get into the, I know you're doing the pilot thing. Let's talk about the flight attendant side of it, because it's a great career for people to look into, and it's not just for women. There's a big need for male flight attendants. So talk a little bit about what flight attendants do and why there's such a need for them.
Right. So coming into the flight attendant profession, leaving the gate agent, I did get hired in as a flight attendant. And a lot of people do tend to think that all we do is customer service. So let me tell you, we had 6 to 8 weeks usually is the training, and it's much closer to 8 weeks. And out of all that time, I wonder if anyone could guess how much of that time is spent on the customer service. How about probably 3 or 4 days?
Yeah.
All the rest of the time, it's all on safety. We're learning the aircraft, we're learning commands. Flight attendants are responsible to get an aircraft full of passengers, and the aircraft will hold, we'll say 180 to 220 people out of the doors in like 2 minutes. It needs to be under 3 minutes. So most of what we did was on safety, on preparation, on commands. If someone were to have a medical issue, like a heart attack, or they're having anxiety, they're having a baby, like any of those types of things, let alone if we had to have a ditching, which is landing in water, or if God forbid the aircraft like crashed. We're trained to do all of those types of things, and trained to deal with those situations. So yeah, flight attendant is very much on safety. Insofar as learning about the aircraft, normally, because different airlines fly different aircraft, so normally that's something you'll also learn in training. All the ins and outs of the aircraft, where all the safety equipment is. You even learn a lot of things about the cockpit, because there's safety equipment, there's things that we can utilize in the cockpit as well. So, and the pilots are really dependent upon the flight attendants. We have to let them out during the flights.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a team effort. And again, like you said, flight attendants get to see the world. Or they want to stay domestic, they can see everywhere in the country. So, I know you yourself, you've been all over the place.
Yeah, actually, I spent New Year's. I went to, and I've gone on my own before too, because of this wonderful profession. Uh, New Year's, I spent New Year's Eve, I flew out to Johannesburg, South Africa.
Oh man, I've always wanted to go there.
The day before yesterday, I actually
Wow.
just got back from Paris, and Paris is kind of like a regular flight. I do Paris a lot. I've been to Santiago, Chile. I've been to Buenos Aires. I've been to Sao Paulo, Brazil. That was kind of a regular route. I've been to Tel Aviv, Israel. Um, I used to live actually in Dakar. So that's another thing. A lot of flight attendants, you can choose a city, you find some place that you want to go to, or it may be some place you visit. You may meet a significant other that you want to court, anything. People move for different reasons. And so I lived in Senegal, Dakar, West Africa for 2.5 years while being based in New York City. I've got girlfriends that live in Italy. They're based in New York, or they work as flight attendants. A gentleman that lives out near Phuket, Thailand. He's in Atlanta. He's Atlanta based. Yeah, flight attendants live all over the world. There's quite a few people that live in Japan and are based in Seattle or Salt Lake City. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you hear people say all the time, I want to live in the big city. That's where the major
Which
airports
one?
are. Yeah,
Which big
or
city?
yeah, because that's where all the big airports are. And even on the freight side, on you know, for FedEx, UPS, you know, if you want to do on that side of aviation with the freight and the shipment, they're also going to major airports. You know, FedEx is in Memphis, and UPS is in Louisville. That's two major cities. So even if you're on that side of it, you know, you really have a chance to live in the major urban areas if you want to get away from the rural setting.
Mm-hmm. So I actually one of the things that I was just going to say really quickly, moving from being a flight attendant, what's made me decide to go into being a pilot, it's something that's always kind of intrigued me. The pilots and tech ops, so those are the people who are like fixing the plane, who are doing all the inside stuff. If you have any students that are really interested in, say, mechanics, or you know, they like to fix on cars, or they've got a motorcycle or that sort of thing, why not fix on planes? So that's kind of
Absolutely.
like what the tech ops department does. It's basically all the internal stuff. And aircraft mechanics are very, very much in need, as are pilots. And a lot of schools are paying you. They are paying you right now to go into aircraft mechanics. And it's usually about a 2-year program. You can do it accelerated, and it would only be a year. And a lot of airlines are offering bonuses for you to come on once you get done. So it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like you said, it's a really fast moving industry at this time.
Yeah,
The
and like in Mississippi, we have Delta State here in Cleveland that has the only
Oh,
undergrad
yeah.
aviation program in Mississippi, and also we have Hines Community College that has their own airport out in Raymond, where they also train pilots and aviation professionals. So there's definitely a growing trend for it here in Mississippi. It's just a matter of the young people getting the information about it and know that they're needed.
Well, knowing also segueing into that, them having the information. So I'm wearing this shirt. This is OBAP, the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, and I am a liaison. So I work with aerospace professionals in schools. So that's why I decided to wear this shirt today.
That's awesome.
And you were giving me an opportunity to share my screen. So if it's okay,
Oh,
I
sure.
would like to
Absolutely.
share
Yeah.
a little video about OBAP. I'm
Oh,
a little bit
absolutely.
technically challenged with some of this some of the time, but let's see here. There we go. And so let me make sure I'm sharing my screen as well as my sound. And this give the kids a little bit more information, because I talked about preparation, having a mentor, planting the seed, and all of that is OBAP offers all of that for you guys. So let's see here. Can you see that okay?
I can. Oh, wow. See it.
Okay, great. So this is OBAP. One of the things that we do is APIS, like I said, aerospace professionals in schools. We do quite a few other things, and I'll tell you guys about that too. Here's a little video for you.
Sometimes it's hard to follow a path that seems uncharted, to chase a dream that just seems out of reach, or to reach the mountaintop of success and look around and wonder, am I alone amongst my peers? Have you ever wondered, is there anybody who has walked my path? We have. We are the place where passion meets purpose, where preparation meets opportunity, where legacies are cemented and celebrated, and new ones created. We are the ones that offer new narratives to old stereotypes, new solutions to old problems, new inspiration to warm hope, new opportunities to those without access, preparation for those without resource. We uplift our communities. We change the lives of our youth, and we pay it forward through aerospace. We are the organization of Black aerospace professionals.
Now, this is something that your students could actually get involved with now. Like I said, I am a liaison for the Aerospace Professionals in Schools program. And basically, this is kind of what we do. We go out into schools, we go out in person. We have APIS Week, which was just last week, where schools dial in and they get to speak with us privately on a virtual platform, somewhat like this. We've done 5 schools in a day. We've done 50 schools in a day. Wow. And they're able to get their questions answered. They're able to, present scenarios. And it's really a one-on-one, and it's pilots, it is mechanics, it's flight attendants, it's airport. We've had airport personnel that come in, directors, all of that. And people just lend their time. We've had, aerospace. This last time we had a lady that she works for weather. She does the weather and everything for the pilots. She came on and spoke. And so we also have Explore Aerospace. That's actually starting this month. I really encourage you to encourage the students, if this is something that they're interested in, to just reach out and go to obap.org.
obap.org, okay.
Mm-hmm. And Explore Aerospace is a fully virtual 12-week course for students grades 6 through 12. And they're going to learn the fundamentals of flight and space in an interactive environment. And then the ACE program, we have ACE academies all over in cities all over the United States. And so possibly there's one near you there in Mississippi. But it's the Aerospace Career Academies. And so that's a week-long summer program, and it provides students from the ages of 13 to 18 with hands-on exposure to aerospace careers. So that's some of what you're seeing too in the videos, right? And then we do the Solo Flight Academy, and that's a 2-week submersion in aviation training, and it provides exposure to opportunities in aviation. And in the very end, they actually can have their own logbook, get it signed, because they do a solo flight. Wow. And that's for the students between 16 and 19. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And so any of the kids that might be interested in continuing on to college, they have collegiate programs as well. And then there's the Luke Weathers Flight Academy. It says it's in Memphis, Tennessee. It's actually like in Olive Branch, Mississippi, which is a suburb. Yep. It's a suburb of Memphis. So it's a bit closer to Memphis than to Jackson or what have you, but there's
right up the road.
Yeah, they can go training there as well. So these are some of the speakers that we've had. Like I explained, Sylvester is an aerospace engineer. We've had pilots from Mesa, from Delta. Dana Robinson, I met her. Sorry, she's an air traffic controller. And then really quickly, so that was the next thing I was going to show you guys really quickly, another video that's specifically on ACE.
looks like a lot of fun.
Look, I'm like, there we go. I wanted to stop sharing my screen. So yeah, so I actually do, I work for Delta Airlines, but I found the opportunity to work for this really great organization as well. And OBAP offers lots of different, opportunities that your students can participate in. So
That's
I wanted to
awesome.
make sure I shared all of that with you as well.
Yeah. No, and before I get to the students' questions, I did, obviously, day before yesterday, we had the 14th anniversary of the first all-female Black flight crew in American history.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was only 14 years ago just shows how long it took for not only women, but Black women to break into aviation, because even for non-minority women, only 7% of all pilots in the United States are females. That's of
Yeah.
any race.
And
Again,
that's
less
an
than
even
1%.
smaller percentage are
Yeah,
women of
it's
color.
less than 1% are minority women, and I haven't flown as much as most people, but I've flown a few times in my life. I can remember one female pilot ever that I've ever seen, which is something that women really haven't had a chance to break into. But I know that is the trend that is changing. And OBAP and Sisters of the Skies and some of these organizations are really trying to change that narrative. Now, talk about, before we get to these questions, about what it is a pilot has to train to do, because I know you're in the midst of becoming a pilot after being at the gate, and then a flight attendant, and now you're on the other side of the flight door, learning to be in the cockpit.
Yep. So I'm training to be a pilot, and there's lots of things that you have to get done. And part of it is, you start out with ground school, and ground school is going to teach you like a lot of the fundamentals of flight. As you could see, one of those programs in there talked about just showing you the fundamentals of flight. How do planes fly? Because of course there's a whole science or what have you behind that. How do planes fly? How to handle an aircraft? Just like maybe if when you well, I don't know, we used to do driver's ed, but before you actually go and take a driving test, you learn to drive a car, you learn the road signs and all that sort of thing. And with flight, you have to do a lot of the same stuff. But then the utmost thing is safety. So you learn how to be the safest pilot possible. So it's going to be in doing your maneuvers and how you're handling the plane and making sure you can do steep turns and how to land properly. And landing, that's one of the most critical phases of a flight. And so you spend a lot of time landing. I think I probably landed almost 200 times before my flight instructor decided to sign me off to solo flight. And
Wow.
really a lot of it was about, making sure you could land and making sure you can handle the aircraft. So there's a lot of that. But then also the training in being a pilot, it's phases. And with the pilot, what I've learned is you never stop learning. So that sort of thing, a good pilot is always learning. So you're going to start out, you get like your private pilot license. That's the first license. And then a lot of people tend to think, oh, you're a private pilot, you can fly privately and make money. And no. The private pilot license is really just something for you. I mean, once you get a private pilot license, you can't even fly in the clouds. You still got to stay away from the clouds, like 1,000 feet below the clouds, 2,000 feet beside them. You still got to stay away from clouds. So in actuality, you have phases. So after you get your private pilot license, then you have to get your instrument rating. Then after you get your instrument rating, then you got to get your commercial rating. Then you got to get your multi-engine rating. So there's phases, and you never stop learning. And then even once you get what's called, say, the airline transport pilot license, you still are coming back regularly to brush up on those skills, possibly to fly a different aircraft. I just had a friend, we just celebrated, it's a woman who went from being a captain on the Airbus with United Airlines, and she just got promoted to the 777, which is a much, a bigger aircraft. So she's now going back to being a first officer. And after she's had some time in the 777, then she can be a 777 captain. But yes, you're always
changes in technology. Planes change every few years, so you got to stay up on how things are changing on the technology side as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, and that's so cool and so interesting. But I'm gonna get to as many of these questions from the students as I can.
Okay.
This is I never thought about this. This is a good one to start off with. This is Rashunta Pierce. She's a ninth grader, and she asked, "How do meals stay hot on a long haul flight?"
Okay, so on a long haul flight, normally they come onto the aircraft and they're coming from the storage. So they're coming from the fridge or the freezer or what have you. And we do have ovens. We don't have microwaves. A lot of people tend to think, I've had people come back and go, can you heat this up in the microwave? We don't have microwaves, but we have some ovens, which might be considered sort of old school ovens. And there may be, depending on the aircraft, some of the larger aircraft where maybe the flight is 8 hours long, we've got like say 8 ovens in the back or 10 ovens in the back. And so, because mind you, in the back of the aircraft, these ovens, we're filling it up to feed 150, 220 people. So we heat them in the oven. But they only eat for that time, and then the next service meal is kept separate, and we have the carts have chillers on the back. So
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it always is a trick of storage on any type of vehicle, especially aircraft. This is a good one. This is Kiera Jackson. She's also in ninth grade, and she asked, "Do you ever get scared when you experience bad turbulence?"
actually, nope. I don't, not anymore. But like I said at the very beginning of the video, I'm a spiritual person. And so I just kind of feel like, you know what? If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But I know it's not my time to go yet. And then, we are I've gotten past it, being frightened about turbulence. And in a way, you have to look at turbulence as sort of like when you're in a car and it's a bad road that you're on. So the car is bumping around. It's that simple. It's not like, you're gonna swerve off the road or you're gonna crash into something. It's just like a rocky road, and that's it. So you get over that.
Yeah, I would imagine once you get used to it, it's just like anything else.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. This is Rashawn Smith. He's in 10th grade, and he asked, "What's the farthest flight you've ever been on? And do you ever get stressed out when you have to be on the plane for a long time?"
So the furthest flight I've been on, I would have to say to date is probably my Johannesburg, definitely the Johannesburg flight. And so I've done that working, and I've also done that in my leisure time. Your leisure time, if you're one of those people that it's like it's out of your control. You're traveling, you're on a plane, you're in this metal tube, 35,000 feet in the air, anything that's happened, it's not up to you. It's let the flight attendants handle it, let the pilots handle anything that's going on and just relax. So that was an easy one. Now, when we're working, and this flight was say 14 to 15 hours from Atlanta to Johannesburg.
Well, that's a
And
long
it was 17 hours from Johannesburg coming back to Atlanta.
That's a long way.
It's a long way. But what people don't know is in between our services and that sort of thing, there are enough flight attendants. We're staffed on the aircraft so that when we have our downtime in between services, we also have breaks. So part of that time, there are bunks in the crew rest area, which is on that particular plane is underneath. We do have a few planes that it's overhead, like over where your luggage goes. There's a compartment up there that's got like these little bunk beds. So we actually get time to rest. So no need to be stressed out. We rely on one another. So that's really good crew resource management. We rely on one another, and we make it work.
I guess it makes the time go faster as well.
Yeah, it does.
This is Michaela Davis. She's a junior, and she asked, "What is the one thing you find most challenging about being a flight attendant?"
Honestly, I think it's about taking care of yourself. So, and that's another thing. You also have to do the same thing as a pilot. So just through your busy schedule, and there are federal rules that are set up for how many days you can fly and how many days you need off and that sort of thing. But you really have to be vigilant as an individual to make sure that you're eating right, to make sure that you're getting the proper sleep. And with so many other things going on and external factors, having I don't know, like personal engagements or your friends want to go out and that sort of thing. You really just have to be vigilant about taking care of yourself. So sometimes just the scheduling can be a little bit challenging.
Yeah,
I
and
like to
you are
fly
drug
all
tested
over.
a lot as well.
Oh yeah, you,
Yeah. So,
you definitely get drug tested. And quite honestly, this is a wonderful job, and I wouldn't want to lose it over hanging out and having, a night of indulging.
yeah,
It's okay to say here, but
I agree.
yeah.
Now this is another question about turbulence. This is Christian Mitchell. She's a junior, and she asks, does turbulence bother pilots different than it would a passenger or flight attendant?
No, turbulence. I mean, it's just like with flight attendants, pilots are pretty used to the turbulence as well. And then in the back of the plane, the pilots don't feel the turbulence on these larger planes. They don't feel the same turbulence that we might feel as flight attendants or passengers. But no, we're not bothered. Pilots aren't really bothered, neither are the flight attendants.
That's crazy. Like that's just weird to think about. Just got two more from the students. This is Jarvis Lyles. He's in ninth grade, and I know you mentioned the different levels of licensing, and he asked, how long did it take you to get to your current position, and how much time is left to get your full license?
Okay, that's a really good question. So this can vary from person to person. It has taken me, with the training, I would say about 9 months. However, that it doesn't need to take anyone 9 months. I've taken a little bit longer because I'm working full time at another position. And then I'm also spending a lot of time doing things like being involved with OBAP. Oh, being involved with the 99s. That might be another organization like to let your students know about. The 99s is the organization of women pilots that started out with Amelia Earhart.
Ooh.
She was the first president. So you can join the 99s as a student pilot.
Ooh.
And you can check into, like, it's very simple to become a student pilot. It's a matter of, having your ID, speaking and reading English, and having someone to sign you off. So you can really get involved with the 99s as well. But so it's taking me a little bit longer. And so far as my other licenses, I'm expecting to come into school in about May in Mississippi. And that's something that I can get done, like, if I make my work schedule, a little bit more minute, then I can actually get in and get that done in under a year. And that would be all of the ratings through CFI, which is a Certified Flight Instructor, CFI, CFII.
That's awesome. Whenever you're in Olive Branch, you need to let me know. I would love to come see some of the stuff you're doing. That's incredible. This is the last one from the students. This is Dakayla Williamson. She's one of our cheerleaders here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, what's the most difficult thing you have been through in your career?
The most difficult thing I've been through in my career? Well, Delta is not a union airline, so it probably has something to do with that, in all honesty. But we're going to keep it simple and just say probably dealing with a very difficult passenger. So it's not even, and then that sort of thing, like I said, it's always about crew resource management, and we're able to sort of play off of and help one another. So you have a whole team working with you. As a flight attendant, you've got the pilots that are working with you, you've got your gate agents that are working with you, and in Delta we call them redcoats, and they're sort of like the supervisors over the gate agents and airport customer service. So because you have a whole team to rely on, I basically that's the route to go when you're dealing with a very difficult passenger.
Yeah, and that's what I think people don't understand. It really is a huge team effort in aviation, from the front line all the way to the people on the aircraft. It really takes a team effort to get all the equipment and all the people from point A to point B.
Exactly.
So even if people don't want to be on the aircraft, there are all kinds of opportunities in aviation at small airports to large airports. So it really is something that needs these kids to think about. Now, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for getting up early out there.
Thank you for having me.
But before we go, it's Black History Month, and we did mention that we just came on the 14th anniversary of the all Black female flight. And I know with OBAP and Sisters of the Skies and these things, they're trying to diversify this field. But why should these young people know that aviation needs them? because representation matters for not only females, but for young minority kids. So just tell these kids why aviation needs them to really look into getting into this field.
Well, I think you just basically said it. Aviation does need them because representation matters. Just like your teacher just said, he like maybe saw one female pilot in any of the time that he's ever traveled. Can you imagine seeing more people like you? So the aviation industry needs you because we need more diversification in aviation throughout, not just in the cockpit, but in all aspects of aviation. So preparation, mentorship, plant the seed.
That's awesome. And again, we thank you so much for getting up early there on the West Coast, and you know, it's just such a great career, and I think it's one of the coolest careers out there. But that's just me. So I'm just enthralled with aviation. But again, Tee Frisby, all the way from San Diego, California, joining us today. We thank you so much. And when you're in Olive Branch, we got to get together. I'd love that.
Thanks so much. It'd be
Talk to you
great.
soon, my friend.
All right. Bye-bye.